This one thing drove me crazy when I was starting out in model railroading, which is how to make trees and how to make trees look good on my model railroad. Well, I'm no longer going crazy, which means I figured out how to make trees. Hey everybody, it's Jimmy from the DIY and Digital, and today I'm showing you 3 different ways to make trees for your model railroad. This episode is brought to you by Skillshare. Watch out for a special offer for my subscribers from Skillshare. Also, with support from my patrons on Patreon, you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and get access to exclusive content and previews of future episodes. You can check out my Patreon at the link in the description below. I've looked at a ton of layouts, and one thing that I love about the really great ones is the way their trees look. And I have figured out over the past few years 3 solid methods for making trees that really aren't that difficult. The first one is one you've seen me use a lot, which is puffball trees. Puffball trees are made from polyfill, specifically colored polyfill like this black polyfill. And you can buy this from Micromark. I'll link that in the description below. But basically, you rip off chunks of the polyfill and you roll it until it comes into a little puffy ball, hence the name puffball trees. Now, once you've done that, this is where you can differ on your techniques. I like to put a bunch of glue down and I make puffball trees as I go. So I put a bunch of white glue down just to make it sticky so that everything will be able to hold in place. And then once I am done with that, I usually use a temporary baking tray like this, and I put some fine turf or some blended turf in there, and I mix up a couple of colors just so I can get some variety. And then I have a bowl of scenic cement, which is 50-50 white glue water. I dunk my puff balls into there and make sure that the glue gets all evenly soaked by squeezing it like this. This also helps me save a little bit of glue because this is a lot of scenic cement. And then I just roll through all of the fine turf that you can see right here, and you get a nice green puff ball. And then I just go and place them in here, and then this is just rinse and repeat. You're going to do it over and over and over again. Now, some of the perks of puffball trees is you can make a tree canopy really quickly and really inexpensively. Now, one of the drawbacks, in my opinion, is that they don't literally look too realistic when you get right to the edges, so you do have to do some edge blending, which you're actually going to see me do with some other trees here in a bit. But puffball trees are definitely extremely easy ways to make a tree canopy like this. Puffball trees are great for creating a deciduous canopy like this, but what if you're doing something like pine trees, conifers, things like that, and you need some of those traditional triangular conical trees? Well, I've got a method for doing that. Now, full disclosure, this works better for in-scale, but these are also great smaller HO scale trees or background trees that you can put off in the distance. I make little pine trees and conifers with chenille stems like this one. This has 4 little puffy areas. These are also known as pipe cleaners. Basically, I cut it into 4 sections to where I get something like this, and then I go ahead and trim off the bottom edge that's going to be the trunk of the tree. And I just do some scissors and I go ahead and trim that up. Okay, so I've got my baking tray full of scenery material, and I'm going to put a bunch of white glue on the chenille stem right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and just use a foam brush to kind of spread the glue out evenly because we're going to need to get an even coating onto this. You'll notice the trend of putting something on glue and then dunking it in scenery material. This is really the easiest way to get these trees looking realistic. So once that's done, I brush out everything and make sure that it looks good. It's already starting to look like a pine tree right here, and then I begin to roll it in the scenery material, and I want to get a nice even coating. I'm using the darker green scenery material right here. This is all Woodland Scenics material, and I'll link it below. And this is how we make these, and they actually turn out looking pretty good for very little work. Now, these are not foreground hero pine trees. These are definitely ones that you put in clusters or backdrops or just kind of add into, but very simple pine tree right here. Now for this, I'm going to be using this on top of my mountains in the corner of the layout. If you've ever been in the Appalachians, you'll notice that the higher in elevation you get, the more conifers and trees like this that you will see. So I don't want these down low. I really want these up top, kind of sticking out of the canopy. So basically I just put a little bit of dab of glue and I stick these in just a few spots. Before we get to our third and final method, I want to talk about this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare can help make your 2022 a year of new learning, growth, and connection through creativity. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for anyone who loves learning and wants to explore their creativity and learn new skills. Invest in yourself and your personal growth. Have a specific skill that you are trying to learn? Check out Skillshare. I know I was using it to improve my Arduino skills, as well as look at some painting for backdrops and things like that. You can check out all sorts of things like that. And if you're looking to do photography and videography, maybe for your model railroad, you can check out tutorials there as well. Now, one really cool thing about Skillshare is that it is totally ad-free and really a great learning space. And there's new premium classes being added every week, so there's always something new to discover. And the entire catalog is available with subtitles in multiple languages, including Spanish, French, Portuguese, and German. And right now, the first 1,000 people to click on the link in the description will get a free month of Skillshare so that you can try it out and start exploring your creativity today. The third and final method of tree creation that I'm going to show you is super trees. These are super trees. The generic version of this is seafoam. You can find that. Sometimes it's cheaper. Right now it's not, but these are from Scenic Express. You can't get this in some places, so sorry if you can't get this, but these are the best deciduous trees in terms of method of making them that I have come across. It's just very tedious and very time consuming, and it's going to be the most expensive method of making trees that I'm going to show you, but it definitely works. So first of all, we grab one of the stems, and you can already see they kind of look like trees. So, and then we're going to trim it up. We're going to prune some of the sections off, and we're going to trim it up and get it looking really, really nice, getting it look the shape that we want to. And don't forget though, don't get rid of all the stuff that you trim off, because we're going to use that for something here in a minute. But go ahead and get that tree pruned up really, really nice, get it cut to length, and you've already see that it's starting to look like a tree. Now, as for the little pieces that we trimmed off, we're going to dunk those in some scenic cement and then cover them with some scenic material. And this is just going to make treetops that we're going to add to our canopy just to give it a little bit of variety. These things are pretty fragile. You saw how easy it was to break stuff off, so you can do some rolling around, which I do. I usually do a light patting, and then I will dust the scenic material over it just to get everything coated nice and evenly. Once that is done, I go ahead and put some glue in the little bitty gaps of my puffball tree canopy, and I stick these little sections in there, and they really look like trees popping out of the canopy, and they give some variety to that canopy rather than just looking like a bunch of puffballs, and it's going to help sell that illusion that this is a tree-covered hillside. And you can continue to use this process when you're talking about the larger sections of material, when you're talking about making bigger trees. And it's really just the same process where you dip it in the scenic cement and then coat it with scenic material, just making sure that you have glue just about everywhere. And you just want to kind of rotate and dump it. You can see that this is a larger tree. And this is not one I'm going to use as a hero tree. This is one that's going to be another background tree, but I'm also throwing some coarse turf on it just to get some thickness to it and some variety of the colors as well. Now this tree I'm going to use to fix a hole in my canopy right here, so I just put a little dot of glue and I'm going to tuck it in right there just so it looks like a tree popping out of the canopy. Okay, time for the fun part. We got to make the trees that come out of the ground that are going to blend our hillsides and be hero trees. So the first thing we need to do is these things are really more of a tan color, so we're going to go ahead and paint them using just some Rust-Oleum flat brown, and just go ahead and paint those up just so they're more of a tree color. This is the area we're going to be working on, the little V where the turnout for the concrete batch plan and the main line come together. We're going to be filling this out with some trees to kind of blend in the hillside with the rest of the terrain. And I bring all my materials over so that I can work on everything right here. I like doing this because it allows me to shape things as I go. And the first thing we need to do is punch some holes for the trees. And I'm doing this using my little pin vise and a rather large bit to kind of gently poke my way through the plaster right here. I do have everything else glued down, but you can see that it brings up some of the plaster, so I need to bring in my little hobby vac from Woodland Scenics and suck everything up right there just to make sure that I don't have any white right there. And then it's just a repeat of the same process. We're going to dip it in the glue, and we're going to take these trees and we're going to dust them with scenic material, and we're going to stick them in place. Now, one thing I found is that these trees sometimes don't have as much body in terms of depth in regards to other trees, so you may have to be strategic in the way that you place them, but they still look really, really good. And I'm going to go ahead and dip this and get these all covered up, and then we're just going to place it in the little hole that I drilled. This is really where super trees can take quite a while, because you've prepped and you've done all the work, and then you're getting to the point where you're actually dusting. So making these trees definitely takes a while, and it's one of those processes where I can only sit and do so many at a time. But getting these things looking great is just really, really easy in terms of making trees, and then it's just rinse and repeat. You're putting the trees in the ground. Now, one thing you can also do is when those little extra pieces that we had at the beginning, you can also use them to stuff and fill gaps along the side to make it a little bit easier as well. Super trees by far are my most favorite way of making deciduous trees like this, especially ones to blend in puffball trees to the surrounding area. They just look so good and they look so realistic. The seafoam armatures really do look like branches, especially when you paint them. It's just a time-consuming process. Making super trees is one of those things that if you're going to need patience to do it, because it does take a long time. When you're modeling, I would just set aside maybe, depending on the side of your layout, a couple days to over a week of just doing super trees in terms of work time, not actual time, work time, in terms of doing trees. And it's the way I'm doing my layout as to where I don't go crazy and constantly making trees, which is why I'm doing my layout in sections. And all of this work and all of these tree methods have yielded this result. Making model trees, it doesn't have to be intimidating or scary, and I hope that these 3 tree making methods really help you to make the model railroad that you have always wanted. If you want to check out some other senior tutorials, I've got them linked right here at the end. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, and happy railroading. Hey guys, no bloopers today, but I do want to say thank you for watching. If you want to get more involved with the community here, I am on Facebook and Instagram. I also have a Patreon page that you can check out. Matter of fact, one of my patrons just soft launched a Discord server for this channel and its community, so check that out. See you next time, guys.